Hi everybody, Joe Bozzello here for joebozzello.com and the Cap Equation Sales Methodology. Welcome to this program entitled, It All Comes Down to Closing, Why Everything You Do and Say During the Presentation Needs to Serve That Purpose and Feed That Purpose. I've been making some notes on this subject for this brief video, and I'll start with the crux of the whole presentation is the only purpose for giving a sales presentation is so you could close your sale. Now there's some underlying purposes, but you must discover what you have to make sure you do is you must discover what your prospect really wants, and then you need to tie the solution and their outcome together and show them that that's possible, show them a new reality. In other parts of this curriculum, we've talked about that, but I want to give you just a few more ideas on the presentation and this purpose that I'm talking about. I've done a lot of personal coaching lately, developed a lot of content lately for this program, and I think that some sales pros work so hard on their presentation, getting all the elements right, maybe getting the pieces in the right place, and while that's important, they sometimes lose focus on the real purpose of the presentation, which is obviously to close a sale. So you may think that you give a great presentation, and many people do. Many people give a great presentation. They present facts, data, logic. In fact, they do a lot of data dump. But that doesn't cut the mustard when you're closing. That really doesn't get you to a position where you could ask for the sale and get the sale. So everything you do and say must serve that purpose. That's really what we're going to talk about. That purpose, obviously, is to close the sale. So in order to close the sale, in order to be in a position to ask for the sale and get to any concerns and objections quickly, you must do 5 things. And if you're following along with your handout, the PDF notebook for notes for this video session, you can follow along. But the 5 things are very straightforward. The first is you must uncover multiple needs and opportunities. And we've talked about this. We've talked about the importance of having multiple arrows to be able to shoot back at them during the closing sequence, the cap closing matrix or process. So that's number 1. Number 2, you have to determine what they really want. I'm going to call it an outcome or a new reality. You want to be able to see and feel what they want to see and feel as a result of doing business with you. I think that's of key importance. And then third, you want to show them how your solution ties very closely to creating that outcome. So in other words, the solution that you present gives them the ability to have that outcome. Those two tie together. And then number 4, I want you to be able to do that with emotion. I want you to be able to ask questions that invoke passion. I want you to be able to tie their outcome and your solution emotionally together for them and be able to feel that. And then number 5, and I think this is obvious, then you need to ask for the sale. You need to trial close and ask for the permission to move forward and talk about the next steps. We talked a little bit about that in trial closing. But there's one more thing in addition to that. You must have a disciplined closing sequence. You must have a closing sequence that you follow. The one thing that really separates, and I'll say this and I want you to hear this clearly, the one thing that separates an amateur closer from a professional closer, and by God, for the sake of God, we want you to be a professional closer. The reason you're subscribing to these programs and reading other books and possibly some other content that we offer in the Cap Equation Sales Methodology is you want to be a professional. So I applaud you for that. But the difference between an amateur and a professional is a professional actually has a closing sequence. They have a discipline that they follow. They actually slow down a little bit near the end of the presentation. When they trial close, they listen very intently. There's a couple things you have to do so that you don't get stuck, so you don't stall out at the end or get stalled out. We don't want you to hit what's called a dead-end street. We want you to stay on the main road, the closing road. There's really 2 things that a closing sequence, like the cap closing matrix, enables you to do. And number 1, it enables you to find out what the real concern or objection is. So circle that or make a note on that. We want you to really get to that real concern or objection. And remember what we have said and taught in this program. A professional is never afraid to lead someone to an actual objection they know they can overcome. And then number 2, your closing sequence whatever sequence you're using, if it's a cap closing matrix, and I hope it is because it works for any type of sale and every sale, but whatever sequence and discipline you're using, it has to enable you, in addition to uncovering the real objection or concern, it has to enable you to ask for the sale multiple times, 3 to 5 times if necessary. So the real purpose for giving a presentation is not to just give a nice presentation or a professional presentation or to impart your wisdom or to tell them how cool you are or how great your company is. It's really to close the sale. It's really put you in the purpose is to put you in a position to close the sale. And even more than that, the underlying objectives are to find out what they want and just simply show them how your products and your solutions create that outcome for them. If you do that, your closing ratio will go sky high. If you're closing at 10 or 20%, you can easily double that to 35 or 40%. If you're now closing at 40% and you do a better job understanding what they want, listening intently, listening very carefully to what they want and tying your solutions and outcomes to that, you'll probably get to a 65 or 75% closing ratio. I know a lot of pros that close at that ratio because they do this thing the best. They understand what their presentation's for, and again, it's not just a time to impart a lot of facts, data, and logic. It's about the time to understand what they want and help them buy the outcome that they want. So I hope you enjoyed this session. We'll see you next time. This is Joe Bozzello for JoeBozzello.com and the CAP Equation.